Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. My name's Grace Chavez. I'm the Release Today's news editor. And recently I had the chance to talk with Brooke Ligertwood from Hillsong Worship. We had a great conversation about her new solo album, Seven. We also got to talk about Passion 2022. She was in the room for the conference and we had a great discussion and I hope you enjoy. So first, you're going to be releasing a new live album called Seven in February. Talk a little bit about that. What's the inspiration behind the project as a whole?
Yes, the inspiration for the project is me trying to do what I'm told. I'd never had in my heart ever to do a project of worship songs under my own name. Many people will know, or you might not, that I'm part of Hillsong Worship, have been for going on 18 years now, which is amazing, and that continues, and so happy doing that. I love being part of a team. I love the local church. I'm really passionate about that. So that remains, consistent and steadfast. But earlier last year in 2021, I took some time just to, once kind of I had been vaccinated and it was time to travel again, to make time with some of my friends who I hadn't seen since, for a year and a half. And I found at the end of those few weeks that this collection of songs had emerged, and I've been making albums long enough to know when there's just a group of random songs or whether there's songs that actually belong together and feel like they are chapters of the same book, you might say. And so I was intrigued, and kind of through a series of things, as it always is with the Lord, he speaks and confirms through his word and through different ways. I realized that this, to my surprise and somewhat kind of sense of trepidation, that this was perhaps something that I was supposed to bring out myself. And so we set about doing that. It was actually a very fast process, though the duration was, 6 months or so. It was actually only a few days here and there because everybody involved in the project is also, we all have other jobs and are doing other things. So it was kind of, we'd get together for a few days here and there, recorded live in November, and am really thrilled that it's, coming out in February.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And the name of the album is Seven. What's the inspiration, or where did that name come from?
Yeah, the name was inspired by this very moment, actually, because I've been making, like I said, I've been making albums for a really long time, almost 20 years. And if there's one thing I know, when you make an album, you have to talk about it. And when you talk about it, people are going to say, why did you call the album Pink Fluffy Puppy or whatever it is? And so I was like, well, they're going to ask me that question, and how can I actually use that moment to talk about something that I feel really stirred about, something that matters? What is it that I want to be talking about over and over and over again? And I had been reading a book over the past year and a half called, I actually have it here. It's called Discipleship on the Edge by a pastor and scholar theologian called Darrell Johnson, and it's a expository journey through the book of Revelation, which, if you've read the Bible, that's a wild book. And so this book here is the single most helpful resource that I've found on navigating the book of Revelation. Someone gave it to me, and they gave my husband and me a book. They gave my husband the Matthew McConaughey bio, and they gave me a book about Revelation. I was like, that is like quite different. But I remember reading the first chapter and getting to the end of the chapter and crying with relief, because Revelation 1, we see John, he's on the island of Patmos. He hears a voice behind him say, write what you see and send it to the 7 churches. And then he sees these lampstands, and there is one like the Son of Man standing in the middle of the lampstands. And we discover by the end of the chapter that that's Jesus, and that the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. So the reason that this album is called Seven is because one thing that probably the single most thing that has brought me great hope, great urgency, and great comfort in the last 2 years is this reminder from the book of Revelation that Jesus stands in the middle of the church. He's not observing from a distance. He's not kind of napping on a boat. He's actually standing in the middle of the church. He is attentive to what he is building and what he is doing. And we are going to do we're going to find navigating this crazy time in history a lot easier if we can walk it out, knowing that that's the reality that we're living in.
Yeah, I love that. And it's kind of a good tie-in. I know you love blending theology and art together. What did this creative process look like for you with Seven?
Yeah, it was honestly just super fun. I think it's like maybe some of the most fun that I've had, because I didn't know that I was writing an album. I was just writing with my friends. So there was no pressure, there was no expectation. And we were just getting to kind of fully commit to wherever the song was taking us. So, for example, there's two songs on the album that I wrote with my friend Stephen Furtick, who is a fellow Enneagram 1, which means that we just could get super molecular on things. So we have a song called Nineveh, which is going to be the second song we release. And who gets to write a song called Nineveh? I guess we do. And so just getting able to fully commit to the process of creativity with the Lord and collaborating within friendship, without any expectation for where this needed to go or what this needed to do, but just being able to fully be immersed in the process of writing and then figure it out afterwards. So that was probably one of the most fun parts of the process for me, was just, there was no expectation. It was just creating within the context of fellowship. And these are the songs that came. I wrote them with some of my favorite people in the world. And now we get to kind of, I actually cried when I had to tell people about the album for the first time, because it had felt just so fun and sacred and special, at just being like a few of us. But now it's time. It has to grow up and put on its pants and go off to college. So that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the artists that you got to work with, and you also got to work with Brandon Lake and even your husband and a bunch of other awesome people. What was it like collaborating with them on Seven?
Yeah, it was so fun. A lot of these relationships are really dear to me. Made some beautiful new friends as well. I produced the album with my dear friend Jason Ingram, who's an absolute genius and has the most pure and wonderful servant heart. And so getting to work with him on this, and then just also see a bunch of people from different worship movements who'd never met. So people from the Hillsong world, from the Bethel world, from Elevation Worship, from Vineyard, kind of coming together to create together. That was so special and fun. Just seeing people who kind of knew of each other but had never met before, meet and adore each other, and then kind of get to serve and minister together was just so fun. Just not only from the music, but the audio team, the production team, the visuals, the whole thing honestly just felt kind of like a summer camp, but like for grown-ups. And we got to kind of eat McDonald's every day if we wanted, which we actually never wrote McDonald's, but when I was a kid, I was like, when I'm a grown up, I'm going to be able to have McDonald's every day. So I'm talking about the emotional equivalent. We didn't actually eat McDonald's because that would probably have been gross, but it's fine.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and working with all these different people, I think the message that the church really needs right now is unity. And I love how you got to bring that together and tied in a bunch of different artists from different backgrounds. And I think that's super inspiring for other people. And I love how you were able to tie all that in together.
Yes, me too. Thank you, Jesus.
And on Friday, you're going to be releasing a new single called 1,000 Hallelujahs. What's the story behind that song?
So 1,000 Hallelujahs was written, that was one of the last songs written actually. My husband, Scotty, and I went down to see our friend Phil Wickham, who's just about an hour south of us. So just hopped in the car, drove down, and we were actually sitting in Phil's church, where him and his family go to church every weekend. And it's in a church hall that's about a century or so old. And we were sitting in this church hall, and we started talking about and thinking about all the people for generations who had gathered in this little church hall to bring their hallelujahs to God, thousands of them, if you will. Yeah. And so that's where that kind of that term, that phrase, 1,000 hallelujahs, came from, thinking about just the generations of the church. And one thing I love also that Darrell Johnson says, who wrote that book I was talking about earlier, he says, when we come to worship on a Sunday, we join in a worship service that is happening in eternity, that's been happening long before we were around, and will be happening long after. And so I feel like 1,000 Hallelujahs finds its context in those two places, that it's about the generational worship of Christ's church on the earth that we get to be a part of. But it's also about the eternal worship, the worship happening in eternity, that when we do gather to worship on a Sunday together, we are actually joining in with that. So 1,000 hallelujahs on heaven and on earth.
Yeah, that's awesome. And another one of your new songs called, well, let's make sure I have this right, Honey in the Rock. And you got to sing that with Brandon Lake in front of like 60,000 college students at Passion 2022. What was that moment like for you?
That moment, first of all, is just, Brandon Lake is one of the most enjoyable people that I know. And Scotty and I love him, and Brittany, his wife, they're just fantastic. And Brandon is just like a very large person in every way. His voice is very amazing and loud. And I love that because my voice is very quiet and soft. And but him and I wrote this song with our friend Mitch Wong, and it was just a joy bomb, honestly. And I just like, I think it was a surprise, pleasant surprise to all of us, what that song shifts in a room when it happens. So that will be the last song that we drop, that will come out Street Week with the album. So we're kind of making our way towards that, but that is certainly a fun one, and I hope a lot of people find encouragement in that one.
Yeah, and then more on Passion 2022. That was kind of the first major event that Passion has had in over 2 years. What was your favorite moment from that conference, and what was it like being in the room for it?
Yeah, I think probably one of my favorite moments from the conference is one thing I love about Passion is that they're always really intentional. That the conference, yes, exists to serve young people in that generation, but it's also to help all of us in our room lift our eyes to the church beyond our immediate context. And so one emphasis this year was the emphasis on dialects and languages that don't have the Bible in their language. So one of my favorite moments from the conference was when they had a translator called Lambert Larry come and write, I think it was John 14:6, in a dialect called Kenyan for the first time. And I think it's so important to remember that the church isn't just our experience on a Sunday or our experience of church through the week, that the church is actually also all of these people in these languages, every nation, tribe, and tongue. And I think it's so powerful that and important actually that Passion places an emphasis on that in such a tangible way. So that was super powerful. Yeah,
it was so cool getting to see that, and just the power of the Bible and how needed it is in different languages. And I thought that was really cool how they brought him in and they were able to do that live, which was kind of crazy. So I love getting to see that.
Amazing. Yeah, I actually was thinking, I was like, you must have had to really spend a lot of time memorizing that, because it's not it's not like a moment you want to like misspell something.
Yeah. Nerve-wracking.
So, yeah, I know. I couldn't have done it. So hats off to him. That was incredible. Yeah,
definitely. And 2022 is already kicked off in a very exciting way for you. What's next for you and your solo career?
Well, I don't really have a solo career. I mean, I guess I do, but I don't. Let's not call this a career. That will freak me out, make me vomit a little bit in my mouth. So I have, I am at the mercy of the Lord, whatever He wants to do. Still very much, like I said, part of Hillsong Worship. We had a new album we just dropped in, I believe it was October, called These Same Skies. So These Same Skies are still going strong. Some touring that I'm at not liberty yet to announce, but perhaps is coming, and it's going to be a beautiful year. Watching my kids continue to grow up. They're 4 and 6 years old, and the sweetest, cutest things. It's going to be a good year. I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. And how can we be praying for you guys as you're journeying into 2022?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. Thank you so much. Prayer for wisdom is always the prayer that I have. I always need more wisdom. Yeah.
It's so great getting to talk with you today, and I'm really excited to listen to 7. I love what I've already heard. So congrats on the new album, and hope to talk with you soon.
Thank you. Bless you.